The alarm blared across orbital platform Serenity, the pride of Earth's United Space Program. Commander Ta Kim looked up from his desk, his face calm despite the flashing red lights. "Status report," he said, his voice steady as he entered the command center. "Sir, unknown vessel approaching," said Officer Han, her fingers moving quickly across the control panel. "It doesn't match any Earth design. It's huge." Ta nodded and straightened his uniform. After 20 years in space service, this moment had finally come. "First contact. Alert Dr. Park," he said, "and get me a direct channel to Earth Command." Dr. Gina Park rushed to the observation deck, her heart pounding. As Serenity's top xenobiologist, she had trained her whole life for this moment. The alien ship was beautiful. It gleamed like pearl in the sunlight, with graceful curves unlike the practical, boxy design of human vessels. "It's not slowing down," said Ta, now standing beside her. "No weapons signatures detected," Han reported. "No energy readings that suggest hostility." The strange ship slowed to a stop just 5 kilometers from Serenity. It was at least 5 times larger than their station. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then Officer Han called out again. "We're receiving a transmission. I think it's a request to dock." Dr. Park felt a chill run down her spine. "They speak our language." "No," said Han. "The message is in symbols, but the computer says the pattern matches international docking protocols. They've been studying us." Tai and Gina had exchanged looks. This changed everything. "Allow them to dock," Tai decided, "but activate security protocols. I want a full team at the airlock." The alien that emerged from the docking tunnel was tall and slender. It had 4 arms and smooth blue skin that seemed to shimmer. Its face was oddly human-like, with large, expressive eyes. It moved with careful, deliberate steps, as if Earth's artificial gravity was uncomfortable. "Welcome to Orbital Platform Serenity," said Tai, stepping forward. "I am Commander Ta Kim." The alien bowed deeply, a gesture that surprised the humans. Then it spoke, its voice flowing like water. "I am Ambassador Nilo of the Arvani people. We come in peace, and—" The alien stumbled slightly, seeming to struggle with Earth's gravity. Dr. Park rushed forward to help, but the security team tensed. "Please," said Nilo, raising all 4 hands slowly. "I mean no harm. My body is simply not accustomed to your world's pull." Jaina helped steady the alien. "Perhaps we should move to the low-gravity conference room," she suggested. Ta nodded. "Good idea, Dr. Park." In the conference room, Ambassador Nilo seemed more comfortable. The gravity was set to 60% of Earth normal, and the alien moved with more confidence. "We have been observing your world for many years," Nilo explained. "Your broadcasts reach far into space. We have learned much about you." "Why reveal yourselves now?" asked Ta, still cautious. Nilo's large eyes blinked slowly. "Because we need your help." Dr. Park leaned forward. "Our help? How could we possibly help a civilization advanced enough for interstellar travel?" "You misunderstand," said Nilo. "Technological advancement and biological capability are not the same. My people come from a world with little danger. Our planet has mild weather, few predators, and abundant resources. We evolved for cooperation, not survival against threats." Tai frowned. "And Earth? Your world is what we call a death world," Nilo said. "High gravity, extreme weather, dangerous predators, and scarce resources in many regions. You evolved to survive conditions that would kill most sentient species in the galaxy." Gina couldn't hide her surprise. "You're saying we're the tough ones, but your technology was developed over thousands of years of peace," explained Nilo. "We had time to focus on science because we weren't fighting to survive. But now we face an enemy that evolved on a world almost as harsh as Earth. They call themselves the Vraks." Tada crossed his arms. "I still don't understand why you need us." Nilo's voice became softer, almost ashamed. My people are part of the Galactic Confederation, an alliance of 17 species from similar peaceful worlds. None of us evolved with strong predatory instincts or the ability to withstand pain and hardship as you humans do. The Vraks are conquering us one world at a time, and we don't know how to fight back. The room fell silent as the humans processed this information. "Show me," said Ta. Nilo touched a device on his wrist. A hologram appeared above the table, showing a battle. What Tai and Gina saw shocked them. The Confederation ships were advanced, but moved without tactical purpose. The attacking Vraks forces were less sophisticated but used formations that any human military officer would recognize. "Your people have no military training at all?" asked Gina. "We have no concept of war," Nilo admitted. "Not until the Vraks arrived." Ta watched the hologram with professional interest. The Vraks' tactics are basic. Any Earth military could counter them easily. "That is why we came to you," said Nilo. "Our research showed that despite your violent history, humans also possess a strong protective instinct. You understand conflict but value peace. You could teach us to defend ourselves." 3 days later, Commander Ta Kim stood before the United Nations Security Council on Earth. The chamber was packed with world leaders and military officials. "The Arvani request is simple," Ta explained. "They need military advisors and trainers. They need to learn how to defend themselves." "And what do we get in return?" asked the American representative. Dr. Park stepped forward. "Ambassador Nilo has offered to share medical technology that could extend human lifespan by 30 years. They also have energy production methods that would solve Earth's resource problems." The Chinese representative looked skeptical. "Why should we believe any of this?" "Because I've seen their ship," said Ta. "I've seen how they traveled across stars. Their technology is real. And right now, they're offering it to all humanity, not just one nation." The room buzzed with conversation. The Korean representative raised her hand. "Commander Kim, what is your recommendation?" Tai took a deep breath. "I believe we should help them. Not just for what we might gain, but because it's the right thing to do. These people have never known war. They need to learn to protect themselves." Dr. Park added, "The Confederation has 17 member species, all peaceful. The Vraks are conquering them because they can. If humans stood by and did nothing, what would that say about us?" The Secretary General nodded slowly. "We will put it to a vote." 2 weeks later, Ta stood in the hangar bay of Serenity, watching as personnel and equipment were loaded onto ships. Earth had voted to help the Confederation. Each nation was sending specialists, soldiers, tacticians, engineers, and diplomats. Dr. Park joined him, excitement clear on her face. "I never thought my first encounter with aliens would lead to this." "Are you worried?" asked Ta. "About space travel?" "No. About teaching peaceful aliens how to fight." "Definitely." Ta smiled slightly. "We're not teaching them to conquer. We're teaching them to protect themselves. There's a difference." Ambassador Nilo approached them, moving more confidently now after adapting to human gravity. "The transport is ready, Commander Kim. Our journey to Confederation space will take 14 Earth days." "We're ready," said Ta. As they boarded the alien ship, Dr. Park looked back at Earth glowing blue and green through the viewport. Humans had spent centuries fighting each other. Now they were united to help aliens who had never known war. "Ironic, isn't it?" she said quietly. "They see us as dangerous because we evolved on a death world. But that's exactly why we can help them." Ta nodded. "Sometimes the most dangerous creatures make the best protectors." The ship's engines hummed to life. As Earth grew smaller behind them, the first human delegation to the stars prepared to teach aliens something humans knew all too well: how to stand and fight when there was no other choice. The Deathworlders were coming, and they were bringing courage with them. The Arvani ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a gentle shudder. Through the main viewport, the humans saw a world unlike any they had ever seen. The planet Arvana glowed with soft blue oceans and purple continents, wrapped in wispy white clouds. "Welcome to the heart of the Confederation," said Ambassador Nilo, all four of his arms gesturing proudly. Commander Ta Kim studied the planet with a soldier's eye. "No visible defense systems," he noted. "Your entire civilization is open to attack." Nilo blinked his large eyes. "Until the Vraks came, we never needed defenses." Dr. Gina Park put a hand on Ta's arm. "Remember, their evolution was different from ours. They never developed the instinct to build walls or weapons." Ta nodded, but his concern remained. The humans had brought 50 specialists from Earth, including Captain Jin Sung of the Korean Special Forces and engineering specialist Han Lee. It seemed like too few to defend an entire civilization. The landing was smooth. A crowd of aliens waited at the spaceport. Not just Arvani, but representatives from all 17 Confederation species. They had different shapes, colors, and features, but they shared one trait. They all looked fragile to human eyes. "They're staring at us," whispered Han Lee to Captain Jin. "We probably look as strange to them as they do to us," Jin replied. But he knew it was more than that. The aliens were not just curious. They were afraid. High Chancellor Tivo stepped forward from the crowd. He was taller than the other Arvani, with skin that shimmered with age and wisdom. "Earth humans," Tivo said, his voice carrying across the spaceport. "We welcome you to Arvana. I must admit, many of our people feared inviting creatures from a death world to our home. But our need is great." Ta stepped forward and bowed slightly. "We understand your concerns, High Chancellor. We come not as conquerors, but as teachers." "Teachers of war," said Tivo with visible discomfort, a concept most of us still struggle to comprehend. The cultural misunderstandings began immediately. At the welcome feast, Jin Sung reached for a pitcher of water and accidentally knocked it over. The liquid spilled onto his hand, and several Arvani gasped in horror. "Are you injured?" one alien asked, rushing toward him with a medical device. Jin looked confused. "It's just water." Dr. Park leaned close to him. "Their skin is more sensitive than ours. What feels like nothing to you would be painful to them." Throughout the meal, the humans noticed more differences. The aliens ate only soft foods and moved with careful, deliberate motions. When Han Lee accidentally bit her tongue, her casual reaction shocked the aliens nearby. "You damaged your flesh organ, and yet you continue eating," an alien asked in disbelief. Han shrugged. "It happens all the time." Later, Gina explained to her fellow humans. Their worlds have so few dangers that even minor pain or injury is rare for them. They never developed our tolerance for discomfort. Ta frowned. "This will make training them very difficult." The next morning, Captain Jin Sung faced his first class of Confederation volunteers. 50 aliens from various species stood in neat rows, attempting to mimic his stance. "Today we begin basic self-defense," Jin announced. "The first rule of combat is to protect yourself from harm." He demonstrated a simple blocking move, then asked for a volunteer. A slender Arvani stepped forward. "Strike at me," Jin instructed. The alien hesitated. "I do not wish to harm you." "You won't," Jin assured him. After several more encouragements, the Arvani finally swung his arm toward Jin's face, slowly and tentatively. Jin blocked it easily. "Good. Now everyone try the block I showed you." The aliens attempted to copy his movement, but their motions were stiff and unnatural. When Jin paired them up to practice, they pulled their strikes short, afraid to make contact. "This isn't working," Jin told Tai later. "They have no instinct for physical conflict." Ta nodded. "We need a different approach." Han Lee had more success with the engineering volunteers. She taught them to repurpose civilian technology for defense. "Your ships have powerful energy systems," she explained, drawing diagrams. With small modifications, they could generate shields against Vraks weapons. The alien engineers learned quickly. What they lacked in combat instinct, they made up for in technical skill. Humans are so creative with technology, one alien engineer told Han. We never thought to use our tools this way. On Earth, Han explained, we often had to improvise with limited resources. Necessity drove our innovation. Another gift from your death world, the alien said thoughtfully. Dr. Gina Park spent her days studying Confederation biology and psychology. She needed to understand their limitations to help them overcome their fears. Your species evolved without the fight-or-flight response that shaped humans, she told Ambassador Nilo. No wonder you freeze when threatened. Can we learn courage? Nilo asked. Gina smiled. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite fear. That can be learned. 1 week into the training program, alarms sounded across the capital city. The Vraks had been detected entering the system. 3 warships reported in Arvani at the command center. They do not respond to communications. High Chancellor Tivo turned to Ta. They were not due to attack Arvana for months. Why now? They know we're here, Ta said grimly. They want to eliminate the human threat before we can train your people. All eyes turned to the humans. The Confederation had barely begun their training. They were nowhere near ready for battle. What do we do? Asked Tivo, his voice shaking. Tay's face was calm. We show them what Deathworlders can do. The 20 human soldiers aboard Arvana quickly took control of the situation. Ta established a command center, while Jin prepared defense teams at likely landing zones. Can your ships fight? Tai asked Tivo. They have energy systems, but no weapons, the Chancellor replied. Han Li has been modifying 2 ships with makeshift defenses, Ta said. They're not warships, but they might surprise the Vraks. The Vraks ships entered orbit and launched smaller craft toward the surface. Through the command center's view screens, the humans got their first look at the enemy, reptilian beings with thick scales and powerful builds. They evolved on a harsh desert world, Nilo explained, not as severe as Earth, but challenging enough to make them strong and aggressive. Jin's voice came through the communication system. First landing craft approaching the western port. They'll be on the ground in 5 minutes. Tay turned to the nervous Confederation representatives. Stay here. We'll handle this. But there are only 20 of you and hundreds of them, protested Tivo. Tai smiled slightly. Watch and learn, Chancellor. This is what humans do best. The Vraks were unprepared for what they found at the western port. Instead of frightened Confederation citizens, they faced a small team of humans who moved with speed and precision that seemed impossible. Jin Sung led the defense, using the environment in ways the Vraks never expected. The aliens had superior numbers and natural armor, but the humans had Earth-born strength, reflexes, and a lifetime of combat training. Han Li's modified ships engaged the Vraks vessels in orbit. They couldn't match the enemy's firepower, but their improvised shields and unexpected maneuvers bought valuable time. From the command center, the Confederation leaders watched in awe as the humans fought. They saw Jin lift a metal beam that would have taken 3 Arvani to move, using it as a barrier. They saw humans continuing to fight despite injuries that would have incapacitated any Confederation species. They're not just stronger, whispered Nilo to Dr. Park. They think differently. They see opportunities we would never notice. After 3 hours of battle, the remaining Vraks forces retreated to their ships and left the system. They'll be back, Ta told the Confederation Council afterward, with more ships and better prepared for humans. High Chancellor Tivo looked at the humans with new respect. Then we must be better prepared as well. You have shown us what is possible. Now teach us to do what you do. We can't make you physically like us, Jinna explained gently. But we can teach you to use your own strengths in ways the Vraks won't expect. As the council meeting ended, Captain Jin approached Commander Ta. Despite a bandaged arm and bruised face, he stood tall. The Confederation volunteers who watched the battle are asking to resume training immediately, Jin reported. They say seeing humans fight changed their understanding. Ta nodded. Fear can be conquered when you see others overcome it. That's the first lesson of courage. The Deathworlders had delivered more than just a victory that day. They had delivered hope. 2 months after the Vraks' attack on Arvana, the human training program had changed completely. Commander Ta Kim stood on a balcony overlooking the new defense academy. Where once there had been gardens, there were now training fields filled with Confederation volunteers. They learned quickly when properly motivated, said Dr. Gina Park, joining him at the railing. Ta nodded. Fear is a powerful teacher. Below them, Captain Jin Sung was no longer trying to teach the aliens to fight like humans. Instead, he had divided them into groups based on their natural abilities. The Meki have 4 arms, Tay observed. Jin is teaching them to use all 4 limbs for defense rather than offense. And the Nulari can stretch their bodies, added Gina. They're perfect for rescue operations. In another area, Hanley worked with engineers from 5 different species. They were turning ordinary civilian vehicles into transport carriers with basic defensive capabilities. We've come a long way, said Ta. But will it be enough? Pilot Su Yoon climbed into the cockpit of a modified Confederation ship. As Earth's top fighter pilot, she had been sent to train alien pilots in combat flying. Remember, she told her students through the communication system, your ships have advantages ours don't. They're more nimble and respond faster to mental controls. The Confederation pilots listened carefully. They were from a species called the Tealer, with quick reflexes and an extra sensory organ that helped them perceive movement in 3 dimensions. Today we practice the spiral defense, said Su. It uses your natural abilities in ways the Vraks can't match. She launched her ship, and the 6 Teller pilots followed. Their ships moved like silver fish in the black ocean of space, twisting and turning in patterns that would make a human dizzy. Good, Su called out. The Vraks think in straight lines and direct attacks. Your advantage is unpredictability. The Teller were beginning to understand. They couldn't match human endurance or strength, but they had advantages of their own. In the medical center, Officer Min Kang worked with a group of Confederation healers. On their peaceful worlds, they rarely dealt with serious injuries. A puncture wound needs immediate pressure, Min explained, demonstrating on a practice dummy. Then you must clean and seal it. The alien healers practiced the motions, their delicate hands becoming more confident with each try. You humans live with so much pain, said one healer, a small being with 6 fingers on each hand. Is that why you are not afraid? Min smiled. We are afraid. We just learn to act despite the fear. Ambassador Nilo led Dr. Park through a secure area of the government complex. The prisoner has asked to speak with you again, he said. Commander Drav, captured during the Vraks attack, was held in a comfortable room rather than a cell. The Confederation had no concept of prisons. The Vraks commander stood as they entered. He was taller than the Arvani but shorter than humans, with scales that shimmered green in the light. Dr. Park, he said, his voice a low rumble. You return as promised. You wish to continue our discussion about honor, Gina said, sitting across from him. Drav's yellow eyes narrowed. I have observed your training program from my window. You are not teaching them to conquer, only to defend. That's right. This is unexpected. The Vraks were told that Deathworlders seek only to dominate. Gina leaned forward. Humans learned long ago that true strength isn't about domination. Drav was silent for a moment. The Supreme Warlord Krex will send a larger force soon. He fears what humans and the Confederation might become together. And what do you think, Commander Drav? The Vraks looked away. I would like to understand more about your concept of honor. In the command center, Ta met with High Chancellor Tivo and the Council of Species. A holographic map showed Confederation space, with red markers indicating Vraks-controlled areas. Our intelligence suggests they are gathering for a major assault, said Ta. 3 targets, simultaneously. We have sent messages to Earth requesting additional support, Tivo said. They are sending Admiral Joy Choi with reinforcements. That's good news, Tai replied. But they won't arrive for at least 2 weeks. We need to be ready before then. The young Arvani rushed into the room. Commander Kim, security has detected an intruder in the engineering section. Tai and Jin Sung hurried to investigate. They found Han Li standing over an unconscious alien that looked like an Arvani but was not. A Vrax spy, Han explained. They can change their skin color, but not their movement patterns. He walked like a predator, not an Arvani. Ta nodded. The humans had learned to recognize the subtle differences between Confederation species. Things the peaceful aliens never noticed about each other, humans saw clearly. What was he after? Asked Jin. Han pointed to her workstation. Plans for our defense system. And he nearly got them. That evening, Tai called all human personnel to a meeting. The spy had been questioned and had revealed important information. The Vrax will attack in 3 days, Tai announced. Their main fleet will target these 3 worlds. He pointed to the map. Can we evacuate the civilians? Asked Min. There's no time, Ta said. We must defend them where they are. Su Yun studied the map. My Taylor pilots can defend the Null system. Their ships are ready. Jin nodded. And my defense teams can protect the ground installations on Mala Prime. What about Arvana? Asked Gina. It's their capital. Tay's face was grim. That's where the Supreme Warlord Krex will lead his forces personally. We'll make our stand here. Han Li raised a concern. Commander, we've trained them well, but the Confederation forces have no real combat experience. Neither did we, until our first battle, Tay replied. They'll learn quickly when lives are at stake. Over the next 2 days, final preparations were made. Across 3 star systems, Confederation citizens prepared for war, something most had never imagined facing. Dr. Park visited Commander Drav again. The attack is coming, she said simply. Drav nodded. I know. Your people and mine don't need to be enemies. The Vrax was quiet for a moment. I have been thinking about what you said about honor and strength. The Vrax believe that strength gives us the right to rule. But you humans are stronger than us, yet you choose to teach rather than conquer. Because real strength is found in cooperation, not domination, Jinnah said. Drav stood and walked to the window, looking out at the training fields. I cannot stop what is coming. But I can tell you this, Warlord Krex has a weakness. He always attacks from above. He never expects danger from below. Gina recognized the gift Drav was giving them. Thank you. On the morning of the expected attack, Commander Ta Kim addressed the gathered Confederation forces on Arvana. Thousands of aliens from 17 species stood in formation, wearing simple armor and carrying weapons that had been modified for their unique physiologies. Today, you will face your fears, Ta told them. The Vrax believe you are weak because you evolved in peace. Show them that peace is a choice, not a weakness. Ambassador Nilo stepped forward. 3 months ago, we did not know how to defend ourselves. Today, thanks to our human friends, we stand ready to protect our homes. High Chancellor Tago raised his 4 arms. Remember your training. Trust your human advisors. And know that today, the Confederation begins a new chapter. As the forces moved to their positions, Captain Jin joined Ta. Do you think they're ready? Todd watched as the aliens moved with new purpose and confidence. They're as ready as they can be. The real test is coming. Jin nodded toward the sky, where the first warning signals were flashing. It already has. The sensors showed hundreds of Vrax ships entering the system. The largest fleet ever assembled by the warrior race was bearing down on Arvana. Pilot Su Yun's voice came through the communication system from the Null system. Contact with enemy forces. Engaging now. From Mala Prime, similar reports arrived. The 3-pronged Vrax attack had begun. Tai activated the general channel. All units, take defensive positions. Remember your training. The humans stand with you. As the first Vrax ships appeared in Arvana's sky, The Confederation forces stood firm. For the first time in their peaceful history, they were ready to fight. The Deathworlders had taught them well. Now it was time to show what they had learned. The sky above Arvana filled with Vrax ships. They descended like dark clouds, their weapons glowing red with power. On the ground, Commander Ta Kim watched the screens in the command center as the battle began across 3 star systems. Null system reports enemy contact, said an Arvani operator. Pilot Su Yun has engaged with her Teller squadron. Another screen showed the situation at Mala Prime, where Captain Jin Sung led the ground defenses against Vrax landing parties. And here, asked Ta, pointing to Arvana. First wave approaching the capital, reported Hanley. Defense systems activated. High Chancellor Tigo stood nervously beside Ta. There are so many of them. Numbers aren't everything, Tay replied calmly. Remember what we taught you. In the Null system, Pilot Su Yun's voice was steady as she directed her Tiller pilots against the Vrax fleet. Formation 6, she ordered. Use the asteroid field to your advantage. The Teller ships darted between floating rocks, their movements quick and unpredictable. The Vrax vessels were larger and more heavily armed, but they moved in straight, predictable patterns. They're trying to force us into open space, Su called out. Don't let them. One of the Teller pilots, Kiri, suddenly broke formation. My family lives on the research station they're targeting. I must defend it directly. No, Kiri, Su shouted. Stay in formation. But the Teller had already turned his ship toward the station, flying directly at the Vrax battle cruiser. It was exactly what the enemy wanted. Su made a split-second decision. All ships follow Kiri. New plan. Spiral defense around the cruiser. The Teller ships converged on the Vrax cruiser from all directions. Instead of attacking head-on as the Vrax expected, they spun around the larger ship in a complex pattern, confusing its targeting systems. Fire auxiliary thrusters on my mark, Su ordered. 3, 2, 1, mark. The small ships suddenly accelerated in different directions. The Vrax cruiser, trying to track multiple targets, fired and missed all of them. Instead, several of its shots hit other Vrax ships. It's working, called Kiri. They're shooting each other. Su smiled. Remember, the Vrax think like predators. They expect direct attacks. Your advantage is thinking differently. On Mala Prime, Captain Jin Sung crouched behind a barrier with a mixed group of Confederation defenders. Vrax ground troops advanced toward their position, firing heavy weapons. They're trying to reach the power station, Jin told his team. We need to hold this line. A tall Meki with 4 arms looked at Jin with worried eyes. They are too many. We should retreat. Jin shook his head. No, this position gives us the advantage. He pointed to the narrow pass the Vrax had to cross. They can only come at us a few at a time. A blast hit nearby, showering them with dirt. Several of the Confederation defenders flinched. Remember your training, Jin said firmly. Use your natural abilities. Latney, your people can burrow, right? A small, furry alien nodded. Take your team underground. Come up behind them when I give the signal. As the Vrax forces pushed forward, they suddenly found themselves under attack from both front and rear. The burrowing Lavni emerged from the ground behind them, while Jin led a charge from the front. The Vrax, used to enemies who fled before them, were confused by the coordinated attack. Despite their greater strength, they began to fall back. Jin tapped his communication device. Commander Kim, Mala Prime Defense Holding. The Vrax didn't expect us to fight smart instead of strong. Back on Arvana, the situation was more dire. The Vrax had landed forces near the capital city, and Supreme Warlord Krex himself led the attack. He was larger than other Vrax, with bright red scales and eyes that glowed with hatred. Bring me the human leader, he roared as his troops advanced. Ta organized the defense from the command center, directing teams to key positions around the city. Hanley had rigged buildings with defensive systems, while Dr. Park coordinated with medical teams to handle casualties. "Sir," Hand called out, "our defense line in Sector 4 is collapsing. The Confederation forces there are pulling back." Tai frowned. That sector was defended entirely by Confederation volunteers with no human advisors. "Put me through to their commander," he ordered. A frightened Arvani voice answered. "Commander Kim, we cannot hold. The Vraks are too powerful." "Listen carefully," Ta said. "You don't need to match their strength. Use the buildings for cover. Draw them into the narrow streets where their numbers don't matter." "But we are not warriors like you." "No," Tai agreed. "But you are fighting for your homes. That gives you strength they don't have." There was a pause. Then the Arvani said, "We will try." In orbit above Arvana, a new fleet of ships appeared. Admiral Joy Choi had arrived with Earth reinforcements 2 days early. "Commander Kim, this is Admiral Choi," came a crisp voice over the communication system. "Looks like you started the party without us." Tai allowed himself a small smile. "You're just in time, Admiral. The Vraks flagship is approaching the capital city." "I see it," Jay replied. "Engaging now." The Earth ships were smaller than the Vraks vessels, but more maneuverable. They had been designed based on lessons learned from the earlier battles, combining human military tactics with Confederation technology. Admiral Choi directed her ships to surround the Vraks flagship, target their engines and weapon systems. Disable, don't destroy. The battle in space tilted in favor of the Confederation and their human allies. But on the ground, Supreme Warlord Krex was still advancing toward the government complex. Dr. Gina Park hurried through the corridors of the detention center. She found Commander Drav watching the battle through his window. "Your advice about attacking from below," she said. "Would it work against Krex himself?" Drav turned to face her. "Krex believes nothing can threaten him from below. It is a point of pride with him." Gina nodded. "Thank you." She activated her communicator. "Commander Kim, I have an idea." The Arvani defenders in Sector 4 had rallied. Following Ta's advice, they used their knowledge of the city to lead the Vraks forces into a trap. Buildings that seemed like easy targets were rigged with Hanley's defensive systems. Streets that appeared to offer direct routes to the government complex led instead to bottlenecks where the Vraks forces could be contained. But Supreme Warlord Krex had broken through with his elite guard. They approached the central plaza where the government complex stood. "Is this the best the Great Confederation can do?" Krex laughed. "Even with human help, you are weak." Ta stepped out to meet him alone. "I am Commander Ta Kim of Earth," he said calmly. "This attack is pointless, Warlord Krex. Your forces are being defeated across 3 systems." Krex snarled. "Lies. No one defeats the Vraks." "See for yourself," Ta said, gesturing to the sky where Admiral Choi's fleet had surrounded the Vraks flagship. While Krex was distracted, looking up, the ground beneath him suddenly collapsed. Hanley had adapted the city's maintenance tunnels into a trap, just as Drav had suggested. Krex fell, but caught himself at the edge of the pit. He roared in anger and began to pull himself up. That's when High Chancellor Tivo appeared, holding a weapon designed by Hanley specifically for Arvani hands. "This is our world," Tivo said, his voice stronger than any human had heard before. "And we will defend it." He fired, and Krex fell back into the pit. He wasn't killed, but he was trapped and injured. "Surrender," Ta called down to him, "and we can end this without further bloodshed." Within hours, the news spread across all 3 battlefields. Supreme Warlord Krex had surrendered. The Vraks forces, hearing that their leader was captured, began to stand down. Minister Bompark, the diplomat sent from Earth, arrived with Admiral Choi. Together with Tai and Gina, they met with Krex and Commander Drav to discuss terms. "The Vraks will never accept defeat," Krex growled, though his injuries had been treated by Min Kang. "This isn't about defeat," said Minister Park. "It's about finding a better way forward for both your people and the Confederation." Drav spoke up. "Supreme Warlord, I have learned much from these humans. They come from a world harsher than ours, yet they choose cooperation over conquest. Krex looked confused. Why would the strong choose not to rule? Because true strength is found in building, not destroying, Tai explained. On Earth, we learned this lesson through centuries of war. You can learn it today without that cost. 1 month later, representatives from all Confederation species gathered with the Vrax leadership. A historic treaty was signed, bringing the Vrax into the Confederation as the 18th member species. At the celebration that followed, Commander Ta Kim stood with Dr. Gina Park, watching as former enemies cautiously began to interact. "Do you think it will last?" Gina asked. "Peace is never guaranteed," Tay replied. "But they've all learned something valuable." High Chancellor Tivo approached them, bowing deeply. "Earth humans, the Confederation owes you a debt we can never repay. You didn't just defend us. You taught us to defend ourselves." And more importantly, added Ambassador Nilo, joining them, "You taught us that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about acting despite fear." Ta smiled. "That's a lesson even Deathworlders have to learn." As the celebration continued, humans and aliens mingled together. Captain Jin Sum showed Meki children how to play Earth games. Pilot Su Yun discussed flight techniques with Taylor pilots. Min Kang exchanged medical knowledge with Confederation healers. And in a quiet corner, Commander Drav of the Vrax spoke with a group of young Arvani, his former enemies. "Your courage surprised us," he told them. "We thought peaceful worlds produced only weak species. We were wrong." Dr. Park watched this exchange with satisfaction. When the aliens sought help, she said softly, Deathworlders delivered courage. But in the end, every species found their own kind of strength. Ta nodded. "That's the greatest victory of all." The stars shone brightly above Arvana that night, no longer threatening but full of promise. A new chapter had begun for the Confederation, the Vraxes, and the Deathworlders from Earth who had taught them all what true courage meant.